interrupt this program to bring you a special news bulletin. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, by air. President Roosevelt has just announced.
Since the beta, people started using demo rushes and grenadiers and half tracks, and it seems to be pretty effective as a diversion.
Deutschland von 1 hat 3/4 die Waffen niedergelegt. Ich habe die Grundsätze erfüllt.
Mirror matches are a tricky thing. Lots of people do want the mirror matches, but there's their balance problems, you know? I mean, one of the things that I like to talk about...
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our house.
This is Bridge 1 to TSN Central. Tales of Heroes is a go. Repeat, Tales of Heroes is a go.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tales of Heroes here, episode number 11 of Tales of Heroes, brought to you by the Team Sportscast Network. We call the shots. That's www.tsncentral.com, by the way. Tales of Heroes episode 11, Basic Training. This is a very different episode from our normal weekly discussions. This episode, what we will be doing is, as the title implies, discussing the basic building blocks and tactics of Company of Heroes. So, this may not be a show for the pros. We don't have a news segment, we don't have a Unit of the Week segment. We're just going to do a big long segment talking about the basic tactics in the game. And it's supposed to be mainly for the new players this week. We're going to have a show, a video replay review as well this week for a lot of the experienced players. And we'll get back to the regular system next week with news and Unit of the Week and another discussion topic. So, for today, if you're listening to the audio, you can get some stuff, pick some stuff up from the audio, but I highly recommend you go and you check out the video production of this week's Tales of Heroes. Episode 11 is what it is at tales.tsncentral.com, tales.tsncentral.com. With that, let me introduce my co-host. I am Bridger, and with me, joining me again tonight, is Vittensby. Thank you for joining me again, sir.
It's always good to be here, and this is, dedicated to all the new players. And I think that they're going to learn a lot from all the different tactics and techniques that we're going to show them, which should improve their game quite significantly.
Right, this is stuff that a lot of people have learned through trial and error. How do you counter a machine gun? A lot of people get this, they buy the game and they're playing online and they're having a blast, and then they come up against a machine gun in a building, and they're like, I can't displace this thing, whatever I do, it just shuts me down, etc., etc. So that's what we're going to try, and those are the kind of things that we're going to try and help with today. But first, to start with, what do you do first in basic training? You learn how to move, and that's what we're going to learn about right now. I mean, obviously, point-and-click interface, you know how to move your units, but how do you move your units? I mean, a lot of people just click, if I want to go over here, I click over here. Now, your unit's going to take the best way it knows how, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be the best way. For example, if I tell it to go over here, maybe it'll take the road most of the way, and if you notice, it's got a little red X in the shield, which means it's now in negative cover, which is not a good thing to be in general. Roads are usually negative cover. So that's not necessarily the best way. So usually you want to tell your units, especially vehicles and armor, a specific path to go. So for example, if I wanted to go up in this direction, and I wanted to make sure that for a majority part of the journey that they're in cover, what you do is you hold down the shift button as you right-click. So I'm holding down shift, and I click, and then I click again, and then I click again, and then I click finally over here. And now we'll watch as my unit moves to the different areas. They go and take cover in the crater, and now they're behind the tree, and there's a sniper there, actually. Vittensby's hiding stuff behind trees on me. And notice they're basically in cover more often than they would be if you just told them to go straight there. And most importantly, we're going to get out of the way here. Most importantly, I ended up in cover. I don't care where you're going, I don't care how you're going to get there, but I ended up in cover. And that's important because many a time I have just, I want to go over here and take this point, I just go over and click on the victory point. Even if I can't see what's there, or, for example, if I want to go and take this point up here, I have no idea what's up here, but I tell my unit to go and just take it. Meanwhile, there could be something over here. In fact, there is. So it would actually be a wiser situation if I am going to take this victory point, instead of just clicking on it, if this was all dark and I couldn't see what was here, I've got a sniper here, that's why I can see it right now, to have your units wind up here. Set it up so that they stop here. They don't take the point, they stop here. That way, if for some reason, after you tell them to go there, you're distracted on this side of the map, they're not going to wind up sitting there at the victory point taking casualties from something you didn't know was there. Instead, at least they'll be in cover fighting back. So that's a very important piece of how to move. Specifically, end up in cover and know that you can use shift to make sure that your units follow a specific path and stay out of negative cover or stay in cover more often. So those are two very important tips to start off with. Alright, here we are at the northern section of Angeville, and we have a common problem that a lot of new players face, is a machine gunner in a building. Specifically, this one covers pretty much to the extent all the way across here to the hedgerow, meaning anything that comes over here is going to try and get knocked down. Also, it covers very far out to the top here, meaning it's very difficult for you to reinforce. If you're trying to fight a battle over here, you can sneak by it across the top, but if you do, you have to come all the way around. So if you're fighting a battle over here and you're reinforcing from your base, it's going to be a lot longer to get there. And if you retreat, it's going to retreat right across the line of the machine gun. So this is a very common place for a machine gun to be on the Axis side here. And Vittensby is going to show us how exactly he might counter a machine gun in a building. We're going to start with the easiest method, and that's the sniper. So Vittensby, go ahead and counter this machine gun with your sniper.
Well, the first thing to know when you're trying to take out a machine gun, with a sniper is that you can't just run the sniper there and start shooting the machine gun. Normally, if you start doing that, what's going to happen is your sniper is going to get shot at back, and then after 2 shots, he'll be at about 10% health, and then right when he's doing the 3rd shot, he usually might actually die before he gets that 3rd shot off. So I'll just go ahead right now and bring up my sniper, and I should probably give him a little bit of visual with something. Bring over my Jeep real quick, and then once I can see it, I'll move forward. As you can see from that range, he's not taking any damage. So as long as you got visual on the actual MG, then he won't take any damage. And that's another reason why the Jeep sniper combo is actually quite effective.
Unfortunately for allies, it's very difficult because they come from different buildings.
Exactly.
So that is
now, had I not had that Jeep there,
go ahead.
Oh no! Had I not had that Jeep there, had I just walked my sniper over there, the MG would have fired back, and every time that sniper revealed itself, it would have lost about half of its health. So. The other tactic is if you don't
go
have
ahead, move your Jeep, and I'll put my machine gun in there, and we'll show people what happens. Sometimes you can get lucky insofar as you will shoot the guy on the machine gun, and by the time the next guy gets on the machine gun, your sniper will recloak himself. And that does happen occasionally, so you can take out a machine gun very quickly, very easily with a sniper, but it doesn't always happen. So it's not a guarantee. My machine gun's back in the building here, so move your Jeep away and just come in with your sniper, and we'll see what happens. It's usually worse with the Axis because the Axis have a much longer range machine gun.
Right now.
So right away he recamouflaged very quickly. The second shot is going to take a little bit longer to recamouflage, and he might take some shots.
And another thing is when you don't have visual, sometimes the sniper misses, as you saw right there.
He missed again.
He'll keep on missing. And of course, I'm going to move him a little bit closer, but as you see, just 2 bursts, well, you can't see, but that sniper has about 10% health left. So I'll shoot again, and then...
He got lucky because he killed the actual machine gunner, but...
And now he's gone.
There he is. So, as you said, it's very important if you're Axis to use a bike to extend the range that your sniper has, because the bike can easily see that machine gun house without actually being in range of getting shot at. The sniper does not have as long a line of sight as it has range. So if you have a better visual on it, you're going to have a better ability to take it out. So there is the first method. That's you know, fairly simple. Another option with that is pretty much just at least take the first shot. You're almost guaranteed to re-camo before they can fire back, and then move to a different side of the building. So on this side, in this building, you could probably do it. It would take a while, but it would guarantee that your sniper's not going to get hit because the machine gun would try and replant itself. Another situation is usually after the first 2 shots, the guy will retreat his machine gun. So while it's best to have a bike or a jeep and a sniper together, it's not necessarily required. There are some things you can do. Take 1 shot, back off for a while, come back and take another shot to make sure your sniper recamos very quickly, etc., etc. So we're going to send him back to get some healing, and we're going to talk about the next method. The method is the mortar, and we're going to use the jeep again with the mortar.
First thing I'd interject is if you're using a sniper, what I usually do is I'll just send a squad of rifles to get suppressed in another direction, just like you would if you were going to flank the MG and to throw a grenade. Just let the rifles get suppressed and then bring up your sniper that way, and make sure that the rifles aren't actually on the sniper, or the sniper isn't near the rifles, because they'll get suppressed while the sniper will get suppressed and take damage along with the rifles. So you could come, say like in this situation, you could come from the left side, and then where my sniper was before from the north, then you could just do that and make sure the rifles get suppressed, and then use your sniper, and you'll be fine.
I would suggest if you're allies, though, sometimes if you don't have access to riflemen, obviously, because you went weapon support center first, which is usually not a good idea, but if that is the case, engineers work just as well to get suppressed for the moment or two that is required for your sniper to get the first shot off. And usually if they're at the longest range possible, as long as you're keeping them at the longest range, they're not going to take too much damage. And obviously, keeping them in a road is a bad idea, but this is a very bad place to attack a house, which is why so many people put a machine gun here. So let's talk about the next way to take out a machine gun in a house, in a building, rather. Mortars. That's your cue to start talking about mortars.
That's my cue. All right. Well, mortars are an inefficient way to flush out units from buildings. They tend to, I mean, you have to use the bombard ground ability. If they're just firing normally, that's not exactly the best way to do it. So let's say, hypothetically, you're just doing the bombard ground. That's fine. But if the player times it right, they can get their MG out and then just reposition it, say, 3-man spaces to the left of where the mortar's going. And then that whole, little circle place that you just tried to... I guess you'll get him out of the building, but then he can just reposition nearby in a different place, and you're just going to walk your rifleman or whatever you were trying to bring through there straight into the MG anyways. So really the sniper, it's the fastest and best way to get rid of a MG in a building.
But I would also suggest that if you extend its range with a Jeep, you can get similar results to the sniper, whereas if he does move it out of the building, he's still going to get crushed because you target the building and then it'll automatically fire at the unit if it gets out of the building.
Yeah, I suppose.
But again, therein lies the problem for allies, where they have to have a Jeep to augment their sniper and their mortar in order to make them as efficient as possible.
Well, the mortar can fire into the fog of war, but like you're kind of hinting at, if you don't know that the MG's there, you could just be firing for nothing. And the mortars still take 2, maybe 3 shots to, sometimes even more than that, to take out a unit in a building. And your opponent's going to respond and just redeploy. Like on this map, instead of keeping him in that particular building, he might just move a little bit down and to the left to the other building, the one with the chimney stack, the big chimney stack, and then just go back and forth between that as you're trying to do that, or bring up another MG, but without getting into too much map specifics. I mean, like we had talked about when we covered MGs, you always want to redeploy your MGs as a counter to snipers, mortars, and just to keep your opponent on his toes.
All right, so that's mortars pretty much. Let's talk about one of the most common ways, however, to get rid of snipers, and that's with rifle squads, because most people open up with a barracks, or if you're Axis and you don't want to use a sniper, you can use Volks to achieve a similar benefit for most of these strategies. Specifically, if you go blitz, you'll be able to use all of them, because sometimes it requires grenades. So let's talk about that. Riflemen, how do you attack a building that has a machine gunner in it without getting pinned? Well, firstly, there's the fact that the machine gun can only pin things in one direction. So if you attack from one direction, and Vittensby can go ahead and start showing us how this works. If you attack in one direction with a rifle squad, and you come in another direction with another rifle squad, that machine gun can only pin one or the other. And my game's frozen up here a little bit. We're going to take about 10 seconds for it to unfreeze for some reason.
Let's hope.
It always has so far, so we're just going to... There we go. Okay, we're back.
There we are.
So now we see we've got rifle squads coming in from the left here, preparing to come in.
Is it in the same building, Bridger?
Yes, it's in the same building.
So that unit's getting suppressed, and then, well, didn't time this right, but...
Yeah.
You let one rifle squad get suppressed, it's pretty easy, and then you can come from one or two other directions. You'll see I have them coming from the north and from the south. Bridger's sniper's getting owned. And then you just throw a grenade, and then I'll just throw 2 grenades for the heck of it. But you usually just want to throw 1 grenade.
And there you go. Very simple. Machine guns laying on the ground in pieces outside of this building now. But very simply, now my bike is getting beat up. That was a perfect execution, with the exception that you have to be patient, because a lot of people have a problem with this insofar as they go too early with one side or the other. Now look at total. He lost a total of what was that? 2 guys on the rifle squad that came in, and so I mean it's fairly efficient considering you just lost about 44 manpower worth of units, and you killed a unit that's worth 266 manpower. For in that case, he used 2 grenades, so it was a total of what 25 munitions plus 44 manpower. I think that's a fairly efficient method of doing it. So. You can even do it with only 2 squads. You don't need 3 squads the way he did it. That's simply a faster and better method to make sure you lose even less. And you can certainly do it with 2 squads. And the method that you can also do it if you don't have grenades, for example, is you circle strafe the building. So if you're low on fuel and you're low on munitions, so you can't get flamethrowers, that's another option, is you can use rifles to distract the machine gunner and then bring in flamethrowers on one side or the other, and you know the machine gun will be firing at the rifles, meanwhile the flamethrower is burning the house down. So that's another option. And lastly, Vittensby's going to demonstrate the circle strafing, or the sort of the bouncing, the dancing technique around the machine gun. So let me pop another one in there. Hang on a second.
The best technique for that is to just go left, right, around one corner, and just make the MG continuously redeploy. Just go from on the smaller side of the building. The problem with that is, well, the best way to do that is when an MG just beats you into a building, and you're like, oh my, what am I going to do but hit the retreat button? Well, you don't always need to hit the retreat button. You can
let's show you that right now. That's a good point, because I've had that happen in the past, and it's been very helpful. So go ahead and go for that building, and I'm going to be right next to it. I'm going to get in. Don't go into it, but go next to it. Yeah. Pretend like you see the machine gun going for this building.
Alright, I'm bringing the squad.
Alright, so my machine gun's going for this building. You're just exploring, and you see, oh, there's a machine gun getting in that building. As long as the squad works well. Yeah, they lollygag. So here, now the machine gun is going to try to set up to cover these. And you'll notice the machine gun is constantly redeploying. He just left that window to come over here. Now he's going to leave that window to come back. So if you pay attention, you can dance it correctly so that this machine gun is never able to actually get a shot off. So you have the 2 other guys in the machine gun squad are shooting at the rifleman, but never the machine gun, if you do it correctly.
There's always that one rifleman that gets annihilated, the lollygagger. But yeah, it takes a little bit of skill to do this, but you'll figure it out. I mean,
I've had success in the past as well as just telling them to circle around the building, and they go around and around the building, and the machine gun can't keep up. In this case, see, basically we've got it down to 1 guy now, and the rifle lost 3 guys in the squad total. And notice though, this does take a long time, because you have to literally shoot the machine gun with your rifles with the heaviest cover in the game on them. And
you can do it with 2 squads, though. Just
two
as
squads
easy,
is
and-
faster. So the problem with this attack is even though you don't use any fuel for grenades, you don't use any munitions for grenades, you don't use any munitions for flamethrowers, it's very easy and very fast to do early in the game. Well, not fast. It's very easy. It's very slow is the issue. Especially since you shouldn't have lost that many units. But that's just me criticizing his technique. I don't know. I circle
Yeah,
strafe,
right.
and I almost never get suppressed personally.
Go ahead, Bridger.
Just circle around
Bring your
the building.
Volk squad up. I'll put an MG in a building. There we go. It's
All right,
gone.
so right there, he didn't use any munitions, didn't use any fuel, and he lost perhaps a few more riflemen than you might normally lose. But he did get the machine gun out of the building, and that is obviously the final goal of all of this. So, is there anything else that you wanted to mention in regards to getting a machine gun out of a building?
Well, you already mentioned the whole flamer, the flamer technique, and that's pretty good. But grenades it's a hefty investment early on, and usually it's cheaper just to get a sniper, and a sniper is more useful anyway. So I would just add that if you had a choice between getting grenades or just getting a sniper, let's say you wanted to tech up a little faster, I'd just probably get a sniper, get a weapons support center out real quick. If Axis ever gets a MG into that building and then gets an MG into the building down to the left of it, you definitely need a sniper. It just will not. You cannot grenade those two. You really can't flank it that well. So just be wary about certain map situations and try to adapt accordingly. Grenades can be good, but they do cost 40 fuel as opposed to the weapons support center cost of just 15 fuel. And a sniper tends to be more useful overall, just because you can kind of scout with them. So that's probably the only other thing I have to say about all the whole thing that we just ran through.
All right, so now we'll move on to countering a machine gun setup in an open field. So I'm going to bring my torrent of machine guns down over here, and we're going to set them up, and then we're going to talk about the next segment. All right, next here we are going to be discussing machine guns in the field and how to counter them when they're in a field. The very same principles apply to what happens when they're in a building. The difference is a lot of the times you can take advantage of the fact that we have less, and my sniper's getting owned. There we go. You can take advantage of the fact that the machine gun has a lot of cover from the front and it only has some cover from the back. In this case, it's obviously not able to shoot behind it as well. In a building, it can shoot all 4 sides. If you attack it from the rear, it's not going to be able to do that. But let's assume then for the moment that we have something covering it. Even if I bring up a Volk squad here, that'll be sitting behind it, covering its rear, there's a very good chance that if you come and flank it, you'll be able to kill it before your squads get killed. So let's see what happens here, Vittensby. If we've got a squad of Volks sort of behind here, go ahead and try and take this machine gunner out.
I'm just going to bring in 2 squads of riflemen, considering that'll be equal units, and we'll see how it goes.
And you need 2, because if you try to use 1 to flank it, a lot of times it can just reposition on you if it's fast enough. Although often it's not fast enough. So often one is, if you know where a squad is, 1 is enough. And here come the grenades from both sides. Boom. It's finished. Little pieces of the gun fly everywhere.
I want your MG, Bridger. Do you mind?
Yes, I mind.
There you go. Now you try to flank it. Oh, nice.
That's
Perfect.
called flank right there, my friend. That's a flank by that's the equivalent of a grenade, basically. If you're on the Axis side and you're trying to flank an MG, you get behind it and you don't drop mortar shells on it, you piece of crud. Okay, we're trying to do an educational video here. So what you actually do, instead of throwing grenades, because the Volks often don't get grenades if you don't go blitz, you will shoot a Panzerfaust at it, which is significantly more munitions than a grenade, but it has the added benefit of usually killing the MG almost outright or just destroying it utterly. It's basically about as powerful as a grenade. You can use it from a longer range, so it's also possible to use it from in front of it as long as it's not behind heavy cover. it's also possible. So any other major things that we want to talk about as far as field attacking an MG in the field?
No, I think that's good, and also with the whole Panzerfaust, you just demonstrated what we were going to talk about, in another segment. But as you saw, Panzerfaust against the MGs aren't entirely bad. He practically took out the entire squad and just was able to kill the gunner, and then as the gunner was repositioning to the one man that was left, usually you'll kill one or two of them, sometimes two, he was able to get his MP40 Volks up in close. So it works for Axis as well as Allies, but the Axis quote-unquote grenade, or the Panzerfaust, is more expensive to use. But also you do have grenadiers that can kind of do the same thing riflemen do, but the grenadiers' grenades are significantly worse and less accurate than the rifleman grenades.
And here's the other thing that makes the Panzerfaust better is the Panzerfaust actually, if you have your Volks in the middle of a bunch of riflemen and the riflemen try and throw a grenade, there's a likely chance that they'll kill their own riflemen on their own team. It has a high chance of friendly fire. But if you shoot a Panzerfaust into a group of Germans and Americans, it'll only kill the Americans for some reason. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's intended or if they just never really thought about that. And so you can take advantage of that by charging your MP40 Volks into a group of riflemen, which prevents them from using grenades. As long as you stay close to them, they're not going to be able to use grenades without taking their own guys out. And so then you can use your Panzerfaust right in the midst of them, kill a ton of them, and not actually lose any yourself. So that's another reason that the Panzerfaust is great. So we actually talked about that just now. Let's talk about placement of a machine gun. First, let's talk about when you place it in a building, what is important to take into consideration? Well, we talk about this in the past, but look at this building. The reason this building makes a very good MG nest is there's windows here, there's windows here, there's windows here, and there's windows here. So there's a window on every single side of this building, which means there's no way that you can flank it without more than one squad. You need at least two squads to flank this MG because it can simply fire out of any side. Now, that is not true for every building. Take this small building here. This is not going to make the best machine gun net. Actually, sorry, it sort of is. But if it was out on its own, it would not have a window on the left-hand side of it. Let's take... Actually, I don't think there's any good examples of a bad house on this, with the exception of this one down here by the Axis strat point. And that is because, regardless of the fact that it has windows on all four sides, it is right next to this hedge. Which means if the Allies come through here, they can throw a grenade from the other side of the hedge, or they can run in and try and do a flanking maneuver around it and just do a dancing maneuver because they come right from the side of the hedge. So the machine gun can't shoot through this hedge. So if you're on this side, you're golden. I mean, an American paratrooper squad could throw a satchel charge over the hedge there and get it in the building. So that makes this building a little bit less useful in terms of a machine gun nest. But there are buildings a lot of the time on Semois. You can find a perfect example. Near the Axis Bridge, there is a building with windows only on two sides. So if you attack it from one of the sides that there's no windows on, it can't fire back. And that's very useful to know, because if you put a machine gun in there expecting it to hold the area, it's not going to be able to do that against an experienced player. So always consider, before you put a machine gunner in a building, does it have windows on every side? And if not, well, you might not want to put it in there. So that's the main thing you want to consider when you're putting it in a building. The secondary thing is it far enough away from everything that it's going to have clear firing angles? Like this building here, almost never used, because it's got a building on this side that blocks its line of sight, and it's got another building on the other side that blocks its line of sight. So really, it can only guard these two areas, and that's not necessarily important. So that's important things to consider when you're in a building. When you are in a field, it is very important to have yourself up against a hedge or up against the side of the map. For example, in this field, this would be a great way to position an MG42, because if you notice on the right-hand side, it is backed by a hedge. So over here, if anybody tries to flank you on the right-hand side, they're not going to be able to. They can come around this road, and that's something to consider as well. So let's imagine then this hedge extends a little bit farther, or since it's close to your base, it would be very difficult for them to flank along this road. So it will be able to take anything over here, and you're able then to, instead of going like this, pointing directly at the Allies, you can swing this and cover more of the left-hand side. Now also consider when you're using an Allied MG in a field, it takes a lot longer to suppress, so you cannot do that as effectively. You have to give it more room on the right-hand side to make sure it's not possible to flank. So an Axis MG can be up here because it pins or suppresses at least very quickly. An Allied MG would have to be more like this, so you get less advantage from that. Another option, of course, is against the side of a map. Here you have the forest on the left-hand side, and so a common placement for MGs to cover this area is you put an MG over here and have it like this. So now it covers all the way up to the woods at the north part there, and it covers it all the way down to this particular victory point. So that's a large amount of coverage for one machine gun, and it's very difficult to flank because they'd have to flank all the way around here, and then they'd finally be able to shoot at it from this direction, and then that makes it more difficult to retreat. So that's... I shouldn't be moving that up there. Stop. Run away. So those are the main, I think, points when putting a machine gunner in a field. Make sure it's in cover, and put it in heavy cover if you can. Like this truck was heavy cover. We blew it to pieces. Haystacks are heavy cover for some reason. It might be wise to put machine guns behind sandbags simply because it's going to give them extra cover, period, and it's going to give them extra cover from the front. If a tank shows up, they can stay there in battle a little bit longer because of the new changes in the recent patch. So anything to add there, Vittensby?
No, not really.
All right,
but
so
again, just to reiterate, like you were saying, just make sure that you know the blind spots of all the buildings on the map that you plan on putting your MG in there. The last thing you want is, Bridger brought up the example of the right by the Axis bridge on Simois, that the blind spot is on the left. So if someone puts an MG in there, all you have to do is just bring up a squad of rifles on the left side and just shoot it to pieces. So again, just when you're using MGs as Axis or Allies, just know the blind spots, look at the map, maybe just load up a custom game and or
use your Alt key to just spin around. Just hold down your Alt key, move your mouse, and you can look at the building from all sides.
Computer or something and just look around. Yeah, just swing around.
So let's move on here to the next section. Alright, we are now on to the next segment here. We're going to talk about tank micro now. We talked a lot about infantry micro. One thing a lot of players don't know is, say I'm in a battle here, and I'm fighting hard, and I need to get back to my base. Now, if I click here back on my base, my tank will simply turn around and show its weakest armor to the enemy I'm fighting, and it's very likely chance that I'll be destroyed before I can make it back. So let's turn him back around here, and let's get him back and pretend he's fighting again. Because obviously when you're turning, you're moving slowly, and it takes a while to accelerate. So that's the last thing you want to do, is turn your tank around to expose the weakest armor when you're running away. Instead, the best technique is to back up, and a lot of people don't understand how they back up. If you click way over here, the tank starts to try and turn. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is click directly behind the tank, and it's going to back up. Just like that. Now, if I want him to continue to back up, I just click behind him, very straight behind, very close. You can do little bits of turns like this in order to get him to back up and turn a little bit. And right like that, I have retreated from the battle without ever exposing anything but my front armor, vastly increasing the chance that my tank is going to survive and get repaired. So let's get him back up here, and I'll show another way of doing it that might be more practical a lot of the time, simply because you want to not have to click, sit there and just babysit your tank while it's backing up, so you can use waypoints to give it a small path as it backs up and then turn your attention to other things. So let's watch what happens right now if I hold down the Shift key and give it a small line of commands. Closely together to make sure that it's going to follow them. And now I can go do other things, and it's backing up quite nicely. Because I held down the Shift key while I was using all those, it set up a small path for the Stug to follow, and now it's perfectly set. So that is the best way to keep your tank alive if you're retreating, is make sure that you can retreat it driving backwards. It takes a little getting used to, and it takes a little practice, but it's very easy once you understand, and once you get used to how far behind your tank you can click without making it actually turn around. So it's actually a fairly intuitive system. So now let's talk about Tank Micro when it comes to fighting tank versus tank battles. Vittensby's going to bring forward his Sherman here and explain how it is that a Sherman will beat a Stug. Because everybody any noob has been playing, the Stug only costs 50 fuel, and its front armor nearly deflects almost every shot the Sherman shoots. So how the heck is a Sherman supposed to beat a Stug? Well, let's find out right now.
Well, the first thing to know is what angle the Stug is actually facing at. You don't want to walk right into the front. And I'm going to take a shot there because I'm a noob. And I'm going to take another shot because Bridger's a noob. There. Basically what you want to do is just keep on circling around the tank slowly. Man, this isn't going too good, Bridger.
No, you're right, it's not. What are you doing wrong? I think you're too far away. You need to make a tighter circle. But now you have a damaged engine.
That hasn't happened in a long time.
How about you build another Sherman and we try this again?
Alright. Ouch. Here, I got an
Vittensby's pride is now licking its wounds at the moment. What he was actually doing is, what I'll show you here while he's building another tank, is using the shift key like I did to create a path for his tank to follow. And the key is to make a very small circle, because the smaller it is, the faster your tank will be. Here we have an M10 now, and I'm going to retreat these guys out of the way. The M10 is still making a little bit too big a circle, but notice that the Stug is not firing at all right now. Now it's actually getting hung up on the wreckage there. But the M10 is still getting shots off. The Stug has never been able to fire a single shot on the M10. Comes with completely full health. And now you must know that the M10 and the Sherman both have a much easier time of that once you get the first level of veterancy, because they get a 25% speed increase. So what he did was actually, I think is the M10 a little bit faster than the Sherman by default? I think it is. That's why that was a little easier. But the Sherman, it's very possible when you get the first veteran upgrade to circle strafe a Stug just like that. It's also possible to do it without the veteran upgrade if you take very tight circles. But now we'll show you on my side how exactly he did that. Is he holds down the shift key and makes a series of very gradual adjustments. And in general, the tank does not have to slow down for these kind of adjustments. Whereas if I tell the tank to go here and then I tell him to go here, it will not always be so smooth. So he's going to go over here, and then I want him to go here. It's going to slow down because it's going to take a tighter turn, but if they make these very gentle and slow, it will take the turns at almost full speed and be able to shoot at anything in the middle, and that's most important against a Stug because the Stug does not have a rotating turret. However, that is also very useful against a Tiger, because believe it or not, the Sherman and the M10 can drive around a Tiger faster than the Tiger's turret can follow them. So even though the Tiger has a turret, the Tiger cannot actually follow them with its turret fast enough. So the Sherman and the M10 can just simply drive circles around it, and it won't ever get a shot off. Now, the corollary to that is, let's pretend this Panther is my Tiger, and there's somebody driving around me counterclockwise. I can sort of tell my Panther to turn by clicking and dragging, and my Panther's now turning, and my turret is turning at the same time, and that allows... imagine that my turret was turning counterclockwise to try and follow the tank. I would be doubling the speed of my turret to follow the Sherman, because I'm having my Panther turn and my turret turn, which actually makes it turn fast enough to follow, if I'm not mistaken there, Vittensby?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
With Tigers, Tiger Ace, Panthers, anything that has a slow turning turret, you want to adjust the body with the turrets so that it moves along a little bit faster.
Now let's see if I have
in
a
defense
bike.
of my mistake,
Go ahead.
I guess you could call that the what not to do versus the what to do. I just haven't really circle strafed with Shermans in a long time. I usually just mass M10s, so a little bit better with it, as you saw. But I think
Now-
the M10 is just overall just a better unit to circle around Stugs because it's faster. So.
Here is an interesting counter to it, though, and this can be done with Pumas or bikes. Obviously, Pumas are a little bit stronger, so it'd be easier to do with Pumas. But I'm going to do it with a bike just to show you it can be done. Let's say I'm going to move my Stug back over here and bring it into the same location here, and you can try and circle strafe it with your M10. Even use the one that's got veterancy here. Go ahead. And what I'm going to try and
M10.
do is,
All right.
I don't know why is he? Oh, he's going to try and shoot at the thing here. Oops, the bike found your sniper. Go ahead and try and circle strafe the Stug here with your M10.
Okay.
And obviously you can't keep your bike out front for this maneuver, but let's now consider that he's going to try and circle strafe here. Now the bike is very quick, and so is the Puma. So in this situation, my Stug is now in trouble. But if I can put my bike in front of the M10 like that, I've now turned the tide, and my Stug now with its very strong frontal armor will be able to counter that M10. And the only thing the M10 can do is try and shoot my bike, and sometimes that takes 1 or 2 shots, or he can try and do that. Is counter the micro, and now my bike is retarded.
Go ahead, Bridger. Do your best.
Why are you retarded? My bike got stuck on the Stug. Keep driving. Don't let him catch you. I'm gonna try and circle strafe the tank. It's not gonna do anything, but I'm gonna try anyway. Aha! Nobody can catch the invincible bike of doom.
And you'll notice M10s miss a lot when they're moving.
No! No! Oh, right into the Stug it was trying to protect. But there's another possible useful situation. So that's the main thing. Here now we're going to talk kiting. And this is mostly useful with the armored car, the Puma armored car. It's a very important tactic because, like I have said many times on the forums, people go, oh man, I can't keep my stuff alive. The sticky bombs and the bazookas, they just eat me alive. So go ahead and buy sticky bombs, Vittensby, and we're going to try and see if he can, with as many rifle squads as he wants, take out my Puma. Now, theoretically, if I do things correct, he should never be able to kill my Puma. So move your tanks out of there. Let's pretend this is earlier in the game and there's no tanks on the field. And bring your rifles over to the left side.
Stickies, I'm bringing up 5 rifle squads.
Let's reposition.
Alright. So, here we go. I've got my Puma now. And I'm going to try and kill these things without actually...
Puma repositioning. Puma repositioning. Puma repositioning. Puma repositioning.
I might have lost it there. Keep driving.
And as you saw, the rifleman went out to throw the sticky bomb, but it didn't work.
And I'm driving into a tank now, so this is going to change things. But as you can see, my Puma is still shooting at these riflemen. But, and it's getting shot at by the tank as well. But it's never got hit by a sticky bomb because I am just in the process of killing these riflemen. I'm shooting at them, but they're not able to fight back. So if I had a machine gun, this would be even better. I could drag these guys wherever I wanted to, and they'd be trying to sticky bomb me. But as long as I keep my Puma moving and try not to walk... See, this is a problem, though, because I drove into some craters, so it slowed me down. And now there's a stump in the way, and I'm toast. I wouldn't normally be toast. Did that sticky bomb just miss, or did you throw a grenade? I think you threw a grenade.
No, it was a sticky.
Wow, I've never seen those things miss before. But that's the basic act of kiting, and you see he's lost two guys here, and he lost a little bit of health on that one. So usually there's only about 2 rifle squads or something. And if you only have rifles against it, there's no way the Puma should be stopped as long as it doesn't, you just got to be careful, and you've got to give it careful waypoints so it doesn't slow down, it doesn't take too tight a turn, and you got to make sure it doesn't get stuck on environmental objects because the vehicles are really stupid. And in general, it just... Look how far the range is on this thing. With the upgraded gun, it's not quite as good because it's got less accuracy against infantry and it fires less shots, but still certainly possible. So that is how you actually make it so a Puma should never ever be killed, even by bazookas with the longer range.
Nerf, please. This range is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's even better if you drive forward instead of backward. It's usually even better. See, he's trying to cut me off here, and he might. Keep driving! Keep driving! But he, of course, the Puma with the upgraded gun, sucks with accuracy right here. Let's see if I stop it enough time to shoot while stopped. And I got 2 of them. Nice. And so my Puma completely escapes any sticky bombs. He's been doing damage the whole time. It's just another very frustrating tactic for your opponent, that is for sure. And now he's cornered me. This isn't good. Drive! Drive! No! Damage engine is not good for this game. And there we go.
But as you saw, the Puma with the damaged engine was still able to get away. Well, obviously not in this situation because I had so many rifle squads, but normally you don't have that many rifle squads. So if you do get sticky bomb, just run as fast as you can away, and then even a damaged engine Puma will be able to if it gets enough distance to begin with, or somewhat distance, it won't be able to get sticky again, even with a damaged engine speed. So just run away and repair it, and that's another reason why sticky bombs sometimes are a waste and why Rangers are complete trash, because they can never finish the job, so to speak. But and also it takes, as you saw, about 3 sticky bombs to kill a Puma. So do you really want to spend all those munitions?
We're losing
it more of a worthy trade-off. But before, when it cost 25 fuel, I mean, you're spending 105 munitions just to get rid of something that cost really only a little bit of about a minute's worth of manpower or so, and 25 fuel. So.
All right, so now we're going to try a very interesting piece of testing here, and I call it fireworks. And I call it fireworks because this is the fun part of the show. And if you check my strat point, I would like for you to drop a bombing run on it. Can you bring a sniper over here by any chance? And get a spotter on it so that we drop a bombing run. We'll see if anything can survive the triple bombing run, the bombing run, defensive bombardment, and rocket artillery at the same time.
And a strafing run.
And a strafing run. I've got armor. I've got APC.
Alright, Bridger. Go!
Alright, so here we go. Strafing run comes in. Bombing run. The registered artillery. Oh, God, the humanity! This is terrible! And a supply drop?
Yeah, that's the finish.
Okay. But clearly, we didn't have enough destruction. Actually, everything is still producing stuff for me, so I'll have to call in more defensive bombardment, registered artillery here. Oh! Those poor souls, bodies everywhere. And that's about the end of the show. We don't have anything left to do here. He's going to try and come over and clean up.
Just have my units kill off, that's all.
What's amazing is the supply drop survives through all this. Oh my God! This is terrible. What I needed was a Nebelwerfer for joining in the fun. Not that it was going to actually hit anything, but, you know, like I said.
And a walking Stuka for the heck of it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Alright, so this is the end of episode 11, in case you can't tell. I hope you guys learned something from it. I hope we helped out anybody new to the game, and so if you have some friends that are new, point them here. Point them to the Tales of Heroes. And tell a friend, won't you, about our show. point them to our back episodes if they like Company of Heroes. It's great. A lot of people listen to it in their car on the way to work. Some people put it on their video iPod after setting up the change. They actually convert it themselves. I'm thinking about converting it to iPod format or whatever the heck that would be. So you see it here first. Destruction, ink, etc., etc. We're going to call that quits. So, with that, I'm going to thank everybody for tuning in here to the Team Sportscast Network presents Tales of Heroes, episode number 11. Tune in next week. We're going to have an excellent show. We're going to have an interview with the team, or the team designer, lead designer behind the Experience Company of Heroes mod. They just released a new version called Experience Company of Heroes Normandy, and it's the version 1.0. If you listened to previous episodes, you know I've mentioned Company of Heroes, Experience Company of Heroes in the past, and they have now just released their newest version last week, and so it is going to be very cool. I highly recommend you check it out. e-coh.com. That's E as in Echo, e-coh.com, and check it out. Download it. They have forums there you can check it out. I guess CAEN, the lobby room is where they're meeting to play online. You can also play over Hamachi. If you go to relicnews.com, look in the modding forums there in what is called the Armory, and then in the Weapons Range subforum, there is a topic on Experience Company of Heroes, and they have the list of Hamachi servers that they use. They also have the Ventrilo IPs if you want to go and talk to the people and play some with them. So I highly recommend you check it out before next week, because we will be talking about it, and we will also have a special video replay review of two players playing with the mod itself. So we're going to see how the mod looks after we discuss it on the show. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Team Sportscast Network. We call the shots. Stay tuned to the website, tales.tsncentral.com. TALES.tsncentral.com.
TSN, the Team Sportscast Network.
This broadcast is copyrighted 2006 by the Team Sportscast Network. Any copying, reproduction, redistribution, modification, rebroadcasting of any kind or any manner is expressly prohibited without the written permission of the Team Sportscast Network, LLC.